Marty, you're out. I'm glad. I'm glad you got out. Who posted your bail?
Nobody. It was hey, just show it. Can you show the image real quick to
I
people, and
gotta
then
get it.
you got to
Uh,
get it. I
I
mean,
gotta. I hit the wrong button and I gotta share it again. Hold on a second. Let me get to this one. Share that one instead. Here we go.
I
Boom.
wonder. Okay, friend of the
Influencer
channel.
from CBC. Influencer detained in Canada for promoting Alberta separation. Seriously? And yeah, this is
Yeah.
the.
So look at. Hang on. So look at the name of the article. Right. The article was written by a guy named Grant Subsidy.
I
Okay.
think that's
All right.
subtle. That's subtle.
It is okay. So you can take it down now. Not true, but caught a lot of people. I mean, I was out canvassing yesterday on the side of the road when somebody said, "Why are you here? I'm surprised you're here." And I'm like, "What the hell?" And then they told me about this article, and then I got phone calls, and then it got really real when I do have a lawyer person that I've been associated with for a long time, and he called me. I'm like, why the hell is Rob calling me? And he's like, are you okay? Do you need bail money or whatever? I'm like, what the? And then I looked on Twitter and I found that out. So it's parody. It's from an account you and I both know. And I know, and it upset some people, and maybe rightfully so. But I mean, it caught. I knew right away it was false. But I guess I'm the I'm the target of it. But the line, I've been caught by that account in particular many times. He's caught me with some parody because there are things that are being said as a joke that we get mad about because they sound so true. You know what I mean? Like there used to be an account that made fun of Jagmeet Singh, and I got caught by that account all the time. Like Jagmeet Singh is in favor of whatever, like nationalizing grocery stores, and I get all mad. And then people
But
go,
he actually was in favor of that. That's not the parody. And this is what's crazy is
yeah,
that the reality is so close to the parody that
yes,
it's kind of hard to tell the difference between. Now, we both know this guy. We've met him in real life. He goes by the official record now. He's a real nice guy, absolutely nice guy, and probably doesn't care because he doesn't have to deal with the because people are like, why are you using the CBC logo? You get sued or whatever.
he lives in Colombia half the year, so he don't care. I mean,
Yeah,
if the CBC comes after him, he'll be like, whatever, sue me.
Here.
Yeah.
But that being said, like there's a line, I guess. Is there a line? What would you say the line would be? Because
he's really close to the line in here, but I mean, he himself. Well, scroll down, right? Like his account is a parody account.
That's correct.
So anything that's posted by the official post, it should show right there. Oh, it doesn't even say parody anymore.
Or so it doesn't say parody account. Like I guess you're supposed to have a thing that says parody account.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, take that back because normally I would have said if you see something from an account that's clearly a parody account, then you should expect parody. So that's the step one. I mean, I think he took he could have gone a little bit further to make it clear that it's parody, right? Pretty much the only thing in there that was parody was the name of the of the author at the CBC.
That's it, and that's people get caught out in this stuff, and then you see a lot of people, they'll share that article as if it's real. They'll just take the screen grab and then don't share the write up that goes with it. So the screen grab goes out. And then next thing you know, it's all over the place, and people are calling your wife saying, "When you get
that's where I mean, I still found it funny, and so did Karen, but I definitely I had to tell about 20 people this morning it's a joke. So
okay, satire. So the Satire Squad HQ. That's the name of the.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, it is in the account name right there.
Okay. Anyways, I thought it was funny and harmless.
It's just difficult to find when people get this close to the line, is what I'm saying. When they use the official CBC logo, that kind of thing. Like when you see the Babylon Bee, you know it's going to be parody when it comes up, and that's exactly what that is. It's absolutely parody. I mean that. Then they have a website called Not the Bee, and that one tripped me up because I was like, this sounds too real. I'm like, where's the punchline? And it turns out they have an actual news website called Not the Bee. So from their Babylon Bee parody website. But here's the thing. I did a parody today, and some people and I thought it was being super obvious about it. But I guess it caught some people off guard. Now, Mark Carney, he did his thing recently about his speech where he basically said again that we're no longer going to be partners with the United States, or that relationship is over. And then what does he do? He brings in a British soldier figurine and says, look at this. And I'm proud. And I look at this all the time. Every day when I get in, it's from I'll just play the clip so you can see what I'm talking about. This is just, if you wanted to screw up trade relations, this is the 101 class.
When I get into the office, I always look at this statue on my desk. It was given to me by Mike Myers just over a year ago. And this is General Isaac Brock. Brock was a hero who fought and gave his life for our forebears in the War of 1812. Before Canada even existed on paper, it had a shape in Brock's imagination. Faced with the threat of an American invasion, Brock built alliances across our land and inspired what would eventually become Canada. Others carried that effort forward.
Others carried it forward. What's the point of this whole thing? It's to say an American invasion is happening and we have to defend ourselves and we're doing the right thing, and it's drumming it up. Now I pointed it out on X that it is incendiary. Now I did say Revolutionary War redcoat, and all the actuallys, like all the comic book guys came out saying actually it was War of 1812. It was Sir Isaac Brock. And here's the thing. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people in Ontario and that part of Canada know who this guy is. You said that there's a university there and you spent time there, so you know who he is. Listen, I asked a bunch of people from British Columbia. Nobody knows who this guy is, as if it's some given. But I did put out a piece of parody, and this was mine. And I'll just pop this up. So what I wrote was, while addressing the nation, President Donald J. Trump held a miniature figurine of a Chinese spy balloon. He keeps it in the Oval Office because, in quotes, it reminds me of how much Canada needs the United States of America. Going on to say they're totally without us. So that actually caught some people off guard because it's not real. I kept the little Google Gemini thing in the corner to give it as a giveaway that it's not actually a real thing. That's what this logo is, by the way, in the bottom corner. That little thing is it's been made with Google's AI. But honestly, that's the same behavior. What do you think of Mark Carney doing this? Like, it just, honestly, I thought it was the most asinine thing to do, and it drummed up more issues because you're drawing a comparison to the War of 1812 to what's happening today.
It's asinine on like about 15 levels, right? And I mean, I got it from you don't walk into the office and look at that every day. Bullshit, right? So like Mike Myers gave you a little figurine and you put it on your desk and like, oh, you like it's your big reminder every morning. That's bullshit. Maybe you got it from Mike Myers. The whole story about Brock was just a general. Brock was just a general who did what he was told. He wasn't a visionary. I mean, if he's forming an alliance, it's not because he's trying to form a Canada. It's because somebody, like, it was the War of 1812. It was, it was a war between England and France fought here on our soil. And so anyways, he wasn't really fighting the Americans too much. I mean, it's so like it was a proxy war. And well,
I mean, so I did a bunch of research on this because I wanted to find out the details of this. Now, a lot of Americans don't really think about the War of 1812. It's not really, it doesn't pop into their heads at all. In Canada, people brag about it. It's like bragging rights about how Canada burned down the White House and the Canadians just marched on down there and did this thing. So I did the research and I found out what actually triggered the War of 1812, because most Canadians have it in their head that it was a war of aggression by the United States, who's this big superpower, because that's what we see the United States as now. But in 1812, it was a much different picture. Britain was the big, giant, empire that was taking over the world. The United States just broke away from that empire only a few decades before, right? It was 1776 till 1789. And then here we are in 1812. And what was going on? The British were actually, they were taking sailors that were sailing on the trade route to France. They were hijacking their ships, and they were abducting them, putting them in British uniforms and sending them off to war to go fight in the Napoleonic Wars. They were actually inscripting American citizens and abducting them and putting them in harm's way. This was a big problem for America. They were also drumming up conflict in the United States amongst native tribes to try to get the tribes to have war with the United States. This was a big issue. Now you have to remember the United States.
But Clyde, I mean, like, I mean, at the end of the day, the question is, why did Carney pick this bizarre hero, right? I mean, like, Carney does an 8-minute speech in English and a 30-second speech in French, and he picks an obscure, by your definition, by mine, right? He picks Isaac Brock. In a sense, he's pissed off the Americans by picking that, but weirdly, he's pissed off the Quebecers, and he's also almost simultaneously pissing us off here in Alberta, because he didn't pick a French general, he didn't pick a Quebec hero, he didn't pick Louis Riel, he didn't pick, like, you know, of all the people he could have picked to represent Canada, he picks Isaac Brock. What's Carney thinking? I mean, I'm going with your premise, your original premise. He's trying to piss off people. Like, he's pissed off a lot of people by doing this. I mean, that speech on Sunday was freaking bizarre.
So let's just be honest. I think he's pissed off more Canadians than he has pissed off Americans. Americans are like, yeah, whatever. You got your little trinket, your little toy, whatever. Who cares? But there's a lot of Canadians and a lot of dual citizens that are pissed off by this. I mean, we live in the West Coast out here. We don't care about Brock. I mean, like, who cares? And, people calling me out saying, like, he's a war hero. You should know who that is. Why? Yeah. Who cares? What American war heroes do you know about? And that's and I raised this question. I said, like, what if in a speech about, Canadian trade to the American people, Donald Trump pulled in an action figure of how about Andrew Jackson, and talked about how the Canadians, how they beat the snot out of them. Well, he beat the snot out of the British because they weren't Canadians at the time in the War of New Orleans, or the Battle of New Orleans, which, by the way, was after the ceasefire, and it was a real bad move on the British Empire to come in and wage another battle after the war had finished. So, like, it's the second time it's the second time this year that Mark Carney has done a speech and invoked a British man who's been dead 150 years. Remember, he did the one about Lord, I can't remember his name, but Palmerston.
Yeah, so he's done it twice now. And I mean, I'm more, I mean, again, right now I'm watching at what Carney's doing, and the fact that everybody out east, maybe not so much after this, but people are still applauding him as the savior. And I'm like, well, look at what else he did this week. He announced this weird trade delegate. Well, he does this meeting. He does this press release, or this 8-minute video on Sunday morning, where he's talking about, like, how Canadians have grown up in a different Canada, blah, 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 blah. And he's basically demonizing the Americans, getting in bed with the Chinese. And then, weirdly, at the end of this week, yesterday, he announces a new sort of trade delegation to the U.S. I can't make sense of what Carney's trying to do. But I don't care, because he's demonizing the Americans, and I'm counting on what you're bringing up, which is our shared history, the history between Canada, between the Alberta and the U.S., or British Columbia and the U.S., is different than the history between Ontario and the U.S.
And this is what I really dove into this week and looking at stuff, because I really wanted to emphasize just how different the history is west to east. And the best way to illustrate this is to bring up a map of what Canada used to look like when it first was brought in. This is a map of Upper and Lower Canada. Yeah, the Upper Canada is the lower part on the map, and the lower part is the upper part on the map, but it's based on the St. Lawrence Seaway. This was Canada in 1812. This is what it looked like, and what for all intents and purposes was that demographic. Now, who lived there is the other question. who lived in this area. The people who lived in this area were people who left America because of the Revolutionary War. There was a number of people that left the United States of America after the Revolutionary War, and it was because they were seen as traitors in America, and people went after them. They absolutely went after them after the war was done. British loyalists and all this, and a lot of them weren't even fighters. They were just people who wanted to have the crown. And the United States went in and they said, like, once it was founded, they looked at these people and said, you're a bunch of traitors. You don't get citizenship. You don't get to vote in our elections. You don't get to serve in office. And they got the scarlet letter basically for the support that they had for the crown. A lot of them, because of this, moved north, and they moved in. They occupied those two different places, Upper and Lower Canada, which is now modern day Quebec and Ontario. So a lot of the sentiment and a lot of the history of that region originates from that. Now, on the western part of Canada, all the way across, is a completely different story. We're talking about adventurers and people who came for all different reasons. People who are native to the region, people who came in from the United States and ventured off in that direction entirely. And later on, when the full continent was decided, when the borders were decided, some people just by happenstance ended up on the wrong side of that border. And there is so much in common with Americans and Canadians west of Ontario. It's not the same history. It's not the same culture. It's not the same everything that Ontario and Quebec have. So yeah, I would go as far to say they're completely different people, west and east.
Yeah, they are. And Carney, what Carney's doing is on purpose. I mean, it's become reckless at this point. He's picked having a crisis to the south of him, having Donald Trump to the south of him helps him politically, and he's capitalizing on that. And he's going too far now. He's pissing off Donald Trump. He's getting in bed with the Chinese, and he's constantly, I mean, he's trying to remind everybody back east, because he doesn't give a shit. Like, his message is not addressed to me or to you. That video, that message is addressed to people in Ontario. It's not even addressed to people in Quebec. It's addressed to a very specific group, a few Ontarians and Maritimers. And what he's telling those people is what has been repeated in that part of the world forever and ever. We're not Americans. We're Canadians. We're better. We kicked Americans' ass in the past. We have a British history, a British ancestry. We're different. We're going to be strong again. That's what he's trying to do. That's the message he's getting across. And the message that he's sharing resonates with people in Ontario.
Well, and that's it. I think it resonates with people on both sides of the aisle in Ontario. It actually resonates with conservative-minded people because that's their shared history. And that's what they like. Okay. But you're alienating the rest of Canada. So this divide and conquer technique that the Liberals have been using for forever is working once again. It's absolutely working once again.
Totally 100% working. It's working so much that I'm burnt right now because I've been sitting on the side of the road collecting petition signatures until today, and people are coming in droves, mad, pissed off. I hear it every single day from Albertans. So whatever Carney's doing is working. I think it's by design. He wants to piss us off, and it's working. Like, it's absolutely working.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Canada, if all the rest of the provinces do what Alberta's doing and say, all right, well, we're just going to take off, like if that's what happens, and that's the fruits of that labor. I mean, what the hell is Upper and Lower Canada historically going to do at that point? Because it doesn't seem like they have really much to offer in terms of export stuff. I mean, America doesn't want Southwestern Ontario to make their cars anymore. They don't. Looks like they might be ramping up production to make the infrastructure to make aluminum in the United States, which would kill Quebec manufacturing.
Carney announced a trade delegation basically to go and help review, not renegotiate, but review the Canada, USA, Mexico agreement, right? There's no Albertans in the delegation, and nobody here in Alberta blink an eye. Nobody blinked an eye. We don't care, because we do $177 billion worth of trade with the US every year, and it's almost all oil and fertilizer and wheat and beef. None of those things are covered in the US, Mexico, Canada free trade agreement. The agreement that Carney has to renegotiate, I'd summarize as cars, aluminum, and the dairy cartel. So like, we don't care. And Carney, I don't know how he's suing the negotiations. Like I don't know what to bet, but we're not going to get a better deal on cars. Like Ontario's not going to go win a new car plant next week by they're not. It's just it's crazy what's going on. And by the way, we never talk about this. We rarely talk about Quebec politics because I think of our audience. But yesterday, Pierre Plamondon, the future premier of Quebec, because he's going to win the next election, he did an amazing 4-hour podcast. And in his podcast, or not 4 hours, it was released at 4 o'clock, a couple of hour long podcast. Man, Quebecers are enraged right now. They want to separate.
No way.
So I'm absolutely let them, but we don't hear about that very much out east or out west.
I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying no way. They're actually like they've fomented this and they actually want to go through with it.
It seems more than in the past. I mean, he's a politician. They all talk, but I'm not. The whole country's parody. I don't even know what we're doing anymore. I have no idea. Like, I have no idea.
Well, I would encourage it. Absolutely, I would encourage it, because I mean, I've been advocating for this for a while. I think the best thing for Canada would be the Balkanization of the country. Separate the provinces. Have independent states. I'm not saying 51st state. I know I have the thing. It's a joke. It's a joke because it gets a lot of elbows up, people upset. But no, I think separating the states so that they're all independent, and then they can make their own decisions. They can absolutely make their own decisions, because as an American, as someone who wants the best for the people that I grew up with in Canada, I want to see Canadians have a better shot at everything. And I think Alberta being able to negotiate a fair deal with the United States without having to deal with Ottawa in the first place, having a deal with each of the individual provinces, I think that's the better way about it. I think Quebec would be doing a lot better if they were on their own, and if they weren't getting transfer payments and all of this stuff wasn't happening. I think they would get to work, and there would be energy on the market. Everyone would benefit.
That's what Plamondon said, actually. That's what I hope he's genuine. He's one of those young Quebecers who thinks that they've been held back, then they've become lazy. He admits it. Like, we've become social, and we need to separate to save ourselves. He used language that we use here in Alberta all the time. Like, break away from the shackles of Ottawa and you'll be better. Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah. I absolutely 100% agree with that. There's so much energy to be exploited in Quebec. There is so many minerals in the ground. And here's the thing. Yes, it'll benefit them and they'll make all the money from it. But guess what? It's an exchange. So that means that there's more minerals, there's more energy in the marketplace, which means prices come down. Everybody has more availability. Manufacturing can go way steam, open the steam valves and go straight forward for this, because this would foster more economic growth. It would foster more manufacturing in the West without having to deal with, third world minerals and stuff like that. It frees us up to just be a powerhouse economically in the whole neighborhood. So yeah, Fortress North America wins with an independent Quebec. So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
And well, obviously every other province. But you know what? Instead, what they're doing? They're building infrastructure projects. This is what we're getting out of the federal government. Whether they're talking about high-speed trains that we don't need, or somebody pulls a rocket out of their ass. I mean, this is literally what's happened. I gotta share the post, and this one was from Peter McCaffrey, and he says, "I promise I'm not joking. This is Canada's spaceport. Last month, the federal government paid $200 million to a company called Maritime Launch Services to lease it for 10 years. $200 million to lease this for 10 years, Marty. What do you know about this?
Well, I mean, as soon as they made similar, I remember when they made that announcements. As soon as they made the announcements, I laughed about it because they've made similar announcements in the past, and it never goes anywhere. Nobody wants to launch rockets from, there's a reason Cape Canaveral exists. The Americans launch rockets out of Florida because it's as far south as they can get, as close to the equator as possible. The International Space Agency in Europe, they use one of the colonies in, I think it's French Guyana or whatever. That's where they launch their rockets from.
Just explain real quick, because there's probably
it's the equator. You want to be as close to the equator. I mean, the Earth spins a certain way, and when you launch a rocket, you're not actually going straight up. You want to kind of go and sort of follow the curvature, because that's what orbiting, right? The purpose is to orbit. And so everybody wants to launch as close to the equator. The only ones who don't launch close to the equator are the Russians, because they have nothing close to the equator. And so they launch from where they're at, but it's big bucks because you're starting far from where you want to end up. Nobody in their right mind is going to come to Cancel, Nova Scotia and launch a rocket. Like, if it was smart to do so, it's one of those things, right? I've experienced this so many times in life. Like, if it was a smart place to launch a rocket from, NASA would have identified it a long time ago. Somebody would have, and somebody would have built something there. But there's nothing there, and there'll be nothing there. But that story goes further, right? Like, when you dig into that story, the connections to Ukraine and everything else, it just oozes corruption. Like, that group that's going to get $200 million. Are we going to see a penny of that 200 million, Clyde?
No. They're going to hightail and run, and that's all we get. We get a small concrete pad with some gravel around it on the level ground. Like, that's it's not even a launch pad. It's literally just...
and then some people on the left had the audacity to say, well, they showed a picture of one of SpaceX's pads from, let's say, 2008. Okay, well, even in 2008, SpaceX had more than that. Like, it looked pretty sophisticated. I think in 2008, SpaceX was using old NASA stuff, right? But even if you made a valid point that in 2008 it was just a concrete pad for SpaceX, then by your argument, it took them about 20 years to get somewhere. Well, this space pad said that they're going to launch rockets in 3 years from now. It's a concrete pad right now, man. Like, in 3 years, we can't build anything in 3 years, right? Like, we've made too many jokes about this. Like, 3 years is, forget about space pads, folks. We haven't built.
3 years is enough time for the public to forget about space pads and forget about the $200 million they want towards it. That's really what it is. You just say that it's going to happen all this time out, and then nobody gets caught. It's just embezzlement, one thing after another. I mean, what was it? The new high-speed rail that's going to cost way too much money and service nobody. We just found out news that Frankie Bubbles, his wife got the contract. Like, man,
Champagne's wife is the president of the Crown Corporation that would operate that train. And they're like, and then his answer is, well, I'll just recluse myself from discussions. No, like, that's not how it works. Oh my!
You got to recuse yourself from everything. That's
everything.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, it's unreal. I had another clip.
Yeah,
I found that Scott Bessent clip that we were talking about just last week. Here, let me pop this up, because you got to hear this. Here's the difference between the Canadian way of dealing with the conflict of interest versus the American way of doing this. Here it is right here. So this is from Melissa. It says, holy crap, Scott Bessent basically confirms what Canadians have been saying about Carney's conflict of interest with this massive investments. No such thing as a blind trust. This is what he had to say. First, here's Mark Carney's excuse, and then there's Scott Bessent.
So what are they?
Look, Stephanie, I follow the rules of the ethics commissioner.
With Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest
what
you sought
possible
to avoid.
conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance.
There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary.
Oh my
A lot
God.
of people did very well in the stock market, I assume. And I assume that you probably were one of them, and good for you.
That would be an incorrect assumption because I had to sell all my stocks to become Treasury Secretary.
You sold them all?
Had
Really?
to, yes.
But you have a blind trust, I would imagine.
There's no such thing as a blind trust.
So what are they?
He just straight says it straight up. There's no such thing as a blind trust, and the U.S. won't stand for that. They won't stand for that in the highest office in the land. You have to sell all your stocks. End of story.
Yeah, sell it and put it in a 3% GIC or bank account or whatever their equivalent, and let it sit there until you're done. Absolutely. By the way, that also reminds me, like watching that clip of Carney reminds me, you know, like he's shitting on the Americans right now, but simultaneously he lives there. He moves. You know, the U.S. of the past is no longer good enough. We need to find a new place. But he's such a hypocrite. He went to school in the U.S. His kids all went to school in the U.S. He moved Brookfield to the U.S. He lives in the U.S. Like, you know, he's pretty close to the U.S. Yeah.
Yeah, right here. Canada's Prime Minister says we cannot trust America. Meanwhile, his wife lives in the United States. All 4 of his children live and study in the United States. 91% of his investment portfolio is in the United States. He owns a house in the United States, yet he tells Canadians they can't trust America. Yes, it's at its finest. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. No, it's and again, I mean, I am at the point, Clyde. Maybe we should go to Ontario. I mean, you and I can go reconnect there and go visit some old stomping grounds. I mean, I kind of have, like I've been saying, lots of people have invited me. You should come to Ottawa. I should come to Toronto, and I keep saying I have no interest. But now I'm becoming really fascinated. Maybe we should go do man on the street interviews in Toronto. Like, is it really that bad? Are people completely brainwashed? They must be. It must be bonkers. Like,
you talk to people in Vancouver, you think, yeah, like they're bonkers. It's crazy. You go to Victoria, they're bonkers. I can only imagine how bonkers Toronto is, and just the absolute crazy things that they believe.
Yeah, like do they seriously believe that they're going to suddenly revive the auto industry? That Trump's going to go, that Carney's going to go down there and convince Trump to bring a factory back to Mississauga or Orillia or wherever place, and then we're going to start, you know, like, what are they? Wow,
they're not convinced, because well, here's the thing: the auto industry was in southern Ontario, and it was there, you know, because at one point it was cheaper, and then they moved there, and things got more and more expensive as the years went on. Whether it was the union wages or it was the regulatory everything overhead on them, it cost more and more and more, but it was still at that threshold where it was cheaper to just keep going with it than it was to up and move all the capital and retrain and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's not the case. It's more expensive. The overhead is crazier. The regulatory obligations are way insane. And so once they've already left, it's even harder to convince them to come here. So what does the government do? They entice them with like paying for stuff, like they did with Stellantis, like they did with the battery companies. And what happens? They say, okay, yeah, we'll do that, and then they take the money and they back out.
Yeah, and then you know, and in his speech this week, Carney was bragging about how you know, he's signed 20 new trade deals in the last year. And people go, oh, 20 trade deals. That's fantastic. And then you look at it, it's like, yeah, so you signed a new deal with Sri Lanka. That's awesome. Like what's the volume we do with Sri Lanka? Oh, well, we do $17 million a year. $17 million a year. Wow. That's that, like somebody made a meme the other day. Like that's about 15 seconds of trade with the US. You know, like when you break it down that way, it's like you're never going to replace what we trade with the US with diversification. It's diversification is great. I'm not against it. I'm 100% in favor of it. I mean, we try and do it here all the time, but
Alberta's been trying to do forever, and it's been stymied by stopping pipelines for the longest time. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, what is Ontario offering the rest of the world? More like expensive cars and expensive steel and expensive Crown Royal. Like Sri Lanka doesn't want her. Like, what are we trading with Sri Lanka? Rubber. That's great. We don't need that much rubber. And in return, what do they get from us? A little bit of whatever. Actually, and that's the irony, is a lot of the trade that is going on that Carney is doing with other nations actually does benefit Alberta. and BC and others, right? Like he goes to China, and he like, that's why Ontario was mad, because Carney went to China, and what did he get? He got a few cars, Chinese EVs, and what did the Chinese want from us? Oil, canola, potash. Like there's nothing in it for Ontario to deal with China. And I don't understand why the Americans, why the Canadians out east can't figure that out. Like getting in bed with China is your number one competitor of stuff you guys are producing. And it ain't gonna, Ontario. I mean, there's a way out for Ontario. Like we touched on it. It's the same way out for Quebec. They're going to have to go back to doing what they used to be good at, which is not building cars. I'm sorry. You know what Ontario's good at? Getting nickel out of the ground and getting iron ore out of the ground and logging and a bunch of stuff like that. Otherwise, if you try to compete with Ontario's trying to compete with the rest of the world.
Zero, Marty, and that's not the vision for Canada.
It's not, but then they want to compete with insurance. Can't compete against England for insurance. They want to compete with financials. Can't compete against the US on financials. Want to compete in the movie industry, can't compete in the movie industry. Like,
this is the amazing part. America has been such a generous partner for such a long time that America would buy the products from Canada, and then it would allow Canada to do things like shut off the banking industry, so only Canadian banks can operate within this geography. Shut off the insurance industry, so only Canadian insurers can operate within this geography. Shut off the dairy industry.
Cartel,
They shut off the telecommunications. And this is what Canada's been doing for decades, for generations now. And now people are just waking up and saying, holy crap, if Canadians don't have any money to spend on these things, and we lose the thing that we sell to the United States that makes us all the money, nobody's going to buy this crap anymore.
Yeah. Donald Trump is the neighbor. You know, you live in an apartment complex and your neighbor hasn't figured out that you're stealing the Netflix from them. So you're happy. You're getting Netflix for free all day long. And all of a sudden the neighbor gets punted out and a new neighbor comes in and he turns off the Netflix. And then you go over to there and you go, hey, how come you turned off the Netflix? And the guy goes, well, it's my Netflix. Well, that's what Donald Trump did to us. Yep, he turned off a whole bunch of systems, and people in Canada said Donald Trump's attacking us. No, he's not attacking us. It was only a matter of time before some American person would step into that role and go, "Why are we doing all this? Why are we protecting the boats crossing the Pacific Ocean? Why are we putting military bases all over the world? Why are we sending weapons everywhere and our own guys? Why are we subsidizing the car industry?" Yeah, absolutely. And people are and Mark Carney wants to reverse all that.
Realize you've been on a free ride and somebody got to foot the bill, and the guy that foots the bill turns around and says, "Not doing it anymore."
The space program is an example, right? Last week,
but we don't want to pay your bills anymore. That's it.
Last week we took a whole bunch of we got all proud last week because a Canadian went around the moon. But what was he doing? He hitchhiked a ride on the American spacecraft.
I was really disappointed by that. So at first, the first time I heard him on the radio, he made a speech. And it was a brief one, but he said something along the lines of, "This was amazing that America brought us along, and I have everything to thank for America and what America made available to us." And I swear the guy got the memo, because after that, a week later, he was doing interviews again, and he didn't bring up America whatsoever. And he started saying that it was all Canada, and Canada made this possible, and all of this stuff. I'm like, wow, okay, I guess he got the memo that you're not allowed to thank America for the things that America does, and that's just a shame. I find it tragic. I think it's rude. Like what else can you call it? And Canadians are seen as these amazingly polite, nice people, and I find that's completely diminished. I don't know, like, was that just always just a myth? Am I just waking up to the fact that Canadians aren't that nice, or is this a new phenomenon? Because the word that a lot of Canadians need to learn, or this phrase, is thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And it would go a long damn way. It really would. It would go a long damn way. And guess what? A lot of Europe got a free ride for a very long time. When Trump came in and he started putting it down that we're going to do these tariffs, They just said, okay, we don't like it, but we'll do it. They didn't raise a fuss. They didn't threaten war. They didn't threaten any of this stuff. Asia, same thing. Vietnam, they went from, having free open trade with the United States and barriers to entry into their own market to now America gets to sell their automobiles and do all this stuff in a demographic it's actually a dream. They're a rising economy. They have 100 million people in a small geographical area. So you ship your products there and they get distributed in that economy quite well. Now that market's open for the United States. Same with Indonesia. And guess what? Those nations are paying upwards to 20% tariffs to enter the US market, and they're doing it with a smile on their face. So that's got a lot to a lot of people.
Look at again. Remember a month ago, let me bring it back to this, right? I mean, we're 13, 14 times smaller than the Americans, but we still always like to think that we punch above our weight class, which is a joke, right? The Americans could crush us. Luckily, they don't. And then look at what we've done in the last few months, right? 2 months ago, there was this advertising campaign. Canada is a nation of builders. Remember we talked about that one? That one pissed me off because Canada is a nation of builders. Remember the project that they highlighted in that video? The St. Lawrence Seaway, right? Canada is a nation of builders. And so they showed, the government of Canada, nation of builders, they show the St. Lawrence Seaway, which was built in the 1960s. That's the best they can come up with. We're a nation of builders, but the best thing you can come up with is something we built in the 1960s. Okay. Now this week, Carney's like, we're a nation of fighters. We're a nation of blah, blah. What's the best he can come up with? A hero from 1812.
Yeah.
I
hear it all the time. This was a gripe that I had before.
200 years ago.
And it's crazy. It's like, Canadians, they do, it's almost like a narcissistic thing that people would do where, if you're not getting your way, then you say, well, come on, man, I always helped you out. I always do these things. They'll be like, I went to Korea with you. We went to the World Wars with you. And then it doesn't work out. And then they go even further back and they go, yeah, well, we beat you up.
Yeah.
What?
I'm surprised we don't go, well, we were here first. Actually, I'm surprised we don't go there because, don't go there. No, we're pathetic in that sense. We're literally pathetic, bringing a nation of builders. Oh God.
Yeah. What have you done lately? What have you done for us lately? It really comes down to that. Nothing is the answer. And bringing in all these environmental measures have only harmed things because we could be saying, well, we supply you with oil, we supply you with potash, we supply you with all these things, but it's a trickle. It's like we turn the taps down low for no other damn reason except a bunch of people's crappy religion of climate change.
Yeah. The Americans are going to the moon. The Americans are landing rockets backwards because of Elon Musk. They have cars that drive themselves. They have robots. They have amazing factories. They have AI. They innovate they are one of the most innovative. It's in their DNA, right? It's in the DNA of Americans. Like freedom leads to innovation, leads
Absolutely.
to, and people keep saying, oh, capitalism doesn't work. Oh my God.
No, absolutely works. Absolutely works. And you know what else? You know what else is a common factor in capitalism is that if somebody has something, say has some property, has some item, if they don't use it, they'll end up going broke, and then some other entrepreneur will come in and buy it from them. And that's usually the way it goes. And it's not always a nice buy. Sometimes it's, well, you're so broke you can't even eat. I'll pay for your meal and I'll take that off your hands and then actually turn it into some use. And this is actually sounds a lot like what Donald Trump has been saying about what he'd like to do with Canada. Now, he doesn't want to tanks across the border. He wants to put economic pressure on Canada so that he could acquire Canada someday. I don't know. These are actually his words. This is what he said to a reporter.
You said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line and you take a look at what that looks like. And it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. we lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars.
Yeah, so he goes on about not needing what Canada has to offer, but wanting to acquire the land. That's capitalism. That's how that works. If you sit on something and you don't use it, it'll devalue to the point where you're not just going to be able to rent seek off of it. You'll end up having to sell it. You'll ruin your own prosperity out of the whole ordeal.
I mean, I 100% agree. We're letting our resources go to waste by not doing. We've let them go to waste. I mean, we need to get back on top of that. I mean, we've become Africa. I've always criticized Africa, right? Like Africa was a colony for the longest part. Sure, you know, it was British that went in there, the Dutch, the Portuguese, and then they wanted those places for their minerals and their resources, and then they made it run. And then when they left there and they turned it back to the Africans, for the most part, the last 50 years has not been the manifest destiny for the African states. They've not been able to get a good, they're missing something. They're missing the concept of democracy and a few other things, but we're becoming that. We always, you know, Canada is becoming a banana republic. We're led by a bunch of idiots who are, and yes, we will be ripe for the taking at some point. I mean, that clip from Trump is about a year old, or maybe more than a year from last year, but it could manifest itself. We're fundamentally bankrupt as a country. We're bankrupt. I mean, we're $3 trillion in the hole federally alone, $6 trillion in debt at all levels of government. We're basically bankrupt.
And that's why we decided on the channel to issue this shirt. This is the I'd grab that shirt. This is the Donald Trump. You know, he likes to grab things, so that's what we got. Go hit the store. The link is in the description down below. Go get yourself one of those. Make your friends laugh at the next gathering, barbecue, what have you. Have one of those. You got another sign recently. We got to give a shout out to your friend that.
Well, it's a friend of the channel. I don't know. Yeah. Is it backwards or have I? This is
yeah, you can read it normal.
Yeah. It's done and it's 3D printed. And there was a guy named Spencer who watches us all the time. He swung by on the side of the road where I was collecting signatures. He brought this for you, and he brought me something pretty sweet. He brought me some hand-loaded bullets, cartridges for my 270, and some freeze-dried Skittles.
Freeze-dried Skittles? What?
Yeah, he's got a cool freeze-drying machine, and I didn't know what they were, but as soon as Skittles have moisture in them, so he put them in this machine, and then they sort of pop like popcorn, and they're recognizable. It's really cool. What? So the water's out of them. Freeze-dried Skittles. And as soon as I brought them home and I put them on the counter there, I munched on a few of them, and then the kids came home for the weekend. They're like, "Oh, cool, Dad! Where'd you get the freeze-dried Skittles?"
They knew what it was right away.
Instantly. I'm like, okay, I'm old. I don't know what that.
I've never even heard of this.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's what they look like. Hold on, I'll pop it open so everybody can see.
They're like bowling ball, billiard balls that have been popped open with the white inside. Like, it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's exactly. Like. That's exactly it. All the water's been sucked out of them.
What's the texture of them? What do they taste like?
Very sweet and crunchy. It's like a crunchy snack instead of a chewy snack. Skittles are chewy normally, but they're just crunchy.
Oh yeah. Wow! I'd like to try that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Spencer's watching. He'll send you some, I guess. No, I said, I mean, he gave me this. I'll bring it to you, or I'll mail it to you if I don't go see you soon. But that's more for the new studio, anyways. So.
Oh, they're asking in the chat, Clyde, have you never heard of freeze-dried candy? No, never.
Neither did I. Okay, we're both.
No, I have no idea. That sounds pretty cool. I think the kids would love that too.
Yeah.
I wonder if they make a popping noise as they do the thing. If you
they're crunchy. They're
as you make them, the kids would love watching it do the thing.
But for me, they'd be great for hiking. I mean, they'll all be gone by the time hiking season comes around. But yeah, actually, he left me a few other dehydrated things. I mean, I think he was playing with his. It's not a dehydrator; it's a freeze dryer. It's a much different machine. Like, it just sucks the moisture right out of everything. Yeah.
How is that different? Like, how does it operate differently? Because a dehydrator just runs a fan.
Doesn't take it to zero, whereas a freeze dryer can take it to zero moisture. Like that just sucks the moisture right out of it.
So is it again like a heater element and then maybe an evaporator?
Oh, I don't know how it works. I have no idea how.
Okay. I'm gonna look into that because I'm kind of curious about that. That's really cool. That's actually really cool. Did we cover everything?
No, well, I mean, we never talked about the petition, but I can talk about that in the next part. We never talked about the two big newses this week. Inflation numbers came out on Monday.
Oh.
2.4% year over year. Huge jump, man, because it was 1.8 in February. So it jumped to 2.4 in March. Of course, the Liberals are blaming, they blamed everything on the war in Iran, but Iran caused, hey, yeah. I mean, all that did was, for sure, it had an impact on the price of fuel, but you can't blame Iran on the price of bananas and apples and housing and restaurants and clothing and TVs, but they sure like to blame everything on that.
Carney blamed the 2003 invasion in Iraq in that same video we were commenting on earlier. Yeah, I mean, things that they'll blame is just it's astronomical.
Yeah, and when I'm watching that video, all I'm thinking of is 2015 to like the worst part of the last 20 years for any young Canadian is the 15 years that Trudeau was in power. It's not COVID, not anyways. No, so yeah, the inflation didn't make the news. Of course it didn't make the news. There's nothing to spin about it. It's going up. But there was an interesting thing on inflation for me that I found interesting is that Stats Canada is trying to spend a little more time. The inflation graphs put out by Stats Canada are a little bit different than they used to be in the past. They're really trying to highlight, hey, we did some good things, even though it doesn't show up, right? Like, hey, we removed the carbon tax, because remember, they removed the carbon tax and now it's as if that never happened, right? Because
wait, didn't they say that it wouldn't have an effect on inflation if they removed the carbon tax? I'm pretty sure that was the argument in committee, that was why they didn't bother.
Yeah, but they have two problems. So one problem is they removed the carbon tax, but they also temporarily removed the GST. Remember, they removed the GST last year at Christmas time. They removed the GST on gifts for kids and stuff like that. And those categories went down and then came back up. So same thing. So in the inflation, they have to explain that. But then in the case of fuels like gasoline and natural gas, they took off the carbon tax. But it looks like the retailers either didn't obey and left it in there, or it was or the price of fuel went up so much afterwards that it just doesn't even appear to have had an impact. So they're both those categories, food and fuels, have a special page in the inflation report because they're trying hard to make sense of it, but it's not working. At the end of the day, inflation's going up. It's 2.4%. Spin it any way you want.
And we know it's not 2.4%. We know it's
nobody even believes that number anymore. Everybody online talks 5 or 6. They don't even believe that number.
Absolutely, 5 or 6, if not 7 or 8. Like I think it's way up. For people who are new to the channel maybe and haven't heard us discuss this, the way they measure inflation is not the actual inflation. Inflation is the actual printing of more money. It's adding more to the monetary supply so that there's more dollars around for the same value of goods that are out there. And then what happens is the effects of that are rising prices. So they measure it based on rising prices. They don't measure it based on the M1 or M2 money supply numbers. So later on, afterwards, after the money goes into circulation, after a while, it dilutes how much each dollar is worth. And then they try to measure that later. Now, what they try to do is have a basket of goods. So they have a basket of electronics and food and travel and entertainment and all these things that Canadians would be buying. And then they put that together, and then they measure that basket of goods over time. Problem is one, every country has a different basket of goods because it's controlled by the government. The other part is they keep changing what's in the basket. So how do you measure it over time if you keep changing what's in the basket? And then they came up with another weights and measures way of manipulating the basket. It's just a way of fixing that they look good for you.
It's a bit of a and some of the math bites them in the ass just because, right? As an example, right now, travel's dropped right off, right? People aren't traveling. I mean, so much so that WestJet just announced they're cutting back 10% of the flights. Wow. They're just not going to go to destinations. So is Air Canada. So then what happens is that they want everything in the basket. Generally, they have 10 categories in the basket of goods, and they want each category to be 10%. Well, flights are now, travel is less than 10% because people aren't traveling. So then they remove travel and they put something else in there that's gone up, and it makes inflation. They change it all told because of that, right? Like they change the basket of goods because we stopped buying stuff. I mean, they still have, they want to keep shoes in the basket of goods, and they want to keep clothing. Why? Because none of us are buying any clothes right now. So what does inflation look like for clothes?
Well, it tanks.
It tanks.
The price.
So they want,
so retailers can actually sell clothes.
So they want to keep it in there. Yeah, they want to keep the clothes in there, but it's because it helps. But they'll have to reconsider. Anyways, it's no that I mean, I'm looking at the clock. The only other story we didn't cover was the Canada Post either, right? Canada Post, good old. So it's the end of the year now. The end of the year was December, but even Crown corporations do their year-end reporting. Usually, around
profits, haven't they, Marty?
Canada Post lost $1.57 billion last year, and it's a Crown corporation. So guess who pays for that? They just go right to Canada, right to the government, and get more money. 1.7 billion, like
$1.7 billion.
Or sorry, 1.57, 1.6. Call it 1.6 billion dollars.
That's unbelievable for a service that just keeps getting less and less. Like we get less and less service from them. So, we've been seeing this a lot with neighborhoods where they say, well, we can't really do door-to-door service anymore. So we're going to put a block at the
a super box.
A big box at the end of the block. So you can just go over to there and get it. They actually, a lot of places going paperless. Most people for their bills and stuff, they're paperless. Are you getting packages from Canada Post? Likely not. Maybe from your nan. If your nan wants to go to Canada Post to do it, they're closing up Canada Post offices in favor of just putting them inside of like Shoppers Drug Marts or London Drugs and stuff like that, and paying the workers there that are already there to do it. So where's the money going?
Well, they're going to fire 30,000 workers, so they've announced that this week. So buried in the report, it does say that the average household gets 2 pieces of addressed mail per week. That's it. So addressed, like not flyers or whatever. So on average, 2 pieces of mail per week. Well, that tells me that Canada Post could visit your house twice a week. Right, in principle, and you wouldn't be missing anything. I mean, I don't even go to my mailbox. I have a mailbox over there, and I have to remind myself because it's not even the way I leave when I leave the house. If I want to go get the mail, I have to drive, north instead of south. And once in a while, I go, I should probably go check the mailbox. But I can't think of the last time I actually got mail in the mailbox. It's flyers. That's all it is. It's flyers. I just go to empty it.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, they're not doing parcels. So, I mean, companies are all going, private for parcels. Most people use FedEx or Pure Later or DHL, whatever.
I ordered, these are glasses that I ordered online. These glasses, just got them the other day. They're $60 online. I don't know where they come from, but I got them 3 days later, delivered at the house. Like the world is changing, man. The world is changing. And yeah, Amazon, I buy so much from Amazon. I buy $10 items from Amazon. I used to think, how can the Amazon make $10 on a $10 item? Like, no joke. Like I needed, I don't know what they're called, like big paper clips while I was canvassing. Right. And I'm like, where the hell do I get that? Hey, you go on Amazon, $6.99, click, done. Like within 24 hours, I get an item that's worth $6.99 delivered at my house.
It's amazing.
Like, where's the profit margin on that? Well,
I'll tell you what, it's why it's difficult to sell things on your own website anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, we have on my t-shirt store. So if you click the link on YouTube to where we sell t-shirts, it'll take you to the website. But then on the website, we actually have an Amazon link where you can pick it up on Amazon and you get the cheap delivery because Amazon's just so much more efficient at it. So yeah, I mean, Amazon's taking over everything, honestly.
Yeah.
Crazy. Cool. All right. Well, that's everything for this week. Well, no, we're going to keep going on because we have a few other things that we want to talk about, and we're going to get into the community chat. So stick around for that. Marty, where can people find you?
Marty Up North on X and Marty Up North on YouTube.